Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm super excited for you to be here today with me because today we are talking about something that not too many people talk about. We're gonna talk about bodybuilding and the real impact of competing on your body, especially if you're a woman. So we're not gonna just talk about the highlights that you see on Instagram. We're gonna talk about the behind the scene truth. I'm gonna talk about my journey, how I struggled with eating disorder bulimia for 12 years and how I finally healed my relationship with food and then decided to take on one of the biggest challenge, bodybuilding show, and going through 16-week prep. And the one reason I wanted to do this video is because I know that so many people who compete shares just their highlights, the happy moments, those pictures from the stage, the shredded bodies, the popping abs, but not too many people talk about the struggles, how competing is so unhealthy, how it can destroy the relationship with food. And yes, you look great, but on the other side, you can end up struggling with your hormones and your body and body dysmorphia so much that at the end, you might question yourself if it was even worth it. And that's exactly what happened to me. So let's talk about before competing. I struggled with eating disorder for 12 years. If you're new here, yes, this was my life. I wasn't always fit. I've actually struggled with horrible relationship with food, with body dysmorphia. I hated the way my body looked. I hated everything about myself. It's horrible to say, but for majority of my life, I had the worst relationship with food. There was not a day where I wouldn't think constantly about food. I wouldn't think about what I'm gonna eat next, how little I should be eating, how much cardio I should be doing. And I was in this never-ending cycle, constantly thinking about wanting to be skinny. It was so exhausting, it was so isolating, and honestly, it stole a lot of joy of my life. But in 2018, something finally clicked. I just realized that I couldn't live like this anymore. And that's where I started finally working on healing. But not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it because it took me about 4 full years after recovering to finally rebuild my relationship with food. Because it wasn't just about eating normally, it was about learning to trust myself again, trusting my body, and learning that food is not an enemy. And by 2022, I felt so strong. I felt strong mentally, physically, emotionally, and I just felt like I was in the best place I've ever been. And so I decided to push myself even more than ever before. And so competing was always something I thought about, but down deep I knew that it would be a challenge that I wasn't just overly 100% sure that I could take on. But in 2022, my relationship with food was awesome. I just went through a horrible breakup, so I was single, I was rebuilding my whole life, and I was like, you know what? Let me try competing and let me try to step on the stage for the first time. So I did. It was honestly something that scared me so much, but at the same time, I knew I could do it. And when people ask me today, why did you compete? The only answer I have for you is because I wanted to prove myself that I can go through the whole prep and not fall into the eating disorder trap again. And I knew that if I'm gonna go through the 16-week prep and come out of the prep healthy, strong, and maybe place, I will be so proud of myself. I literally did it just for this specific reason. I didn't care about placing first. I didn't care about anything. I just wanted to go through the prep. And so I did. And at the beginning, it honestly felt very exciting. I hired a coach. It was awesome. I felt like I had a structure. I had a plan in my life. And it was just really good because I was learning new things. I was learning posing, which, oh my God, if you would see me posing, my first posing was awful. Of course, I was learning something so new. I'm not a girl who wears heels, so you can just imagine how I looked. I actually have a clip that I'm gonna show you like right here. This is literally me posing for the first time. I'm not saying that my posing on the stage was perfect, but it was definitely better than this footage. So now let's talk about how the prep actually looks like, because if you're someone who is considering competing and maybe you're playing with the thought of like, should I compete, should I not? This will be helpful for you to really understand what you're signing up for, because I think that the expectations that a lot of people have are far away from the true and reality that you actually experience. So the first few weeks were fine. Yes, it was obviously restricted. Like, you have to be okay to follow the plan 100%. There is no such a thing like I can do 80-20 or I can do 50%. Like, you have to go all in, because you're literally about to step on the stage and walk in the tiniest bikinis in those heels in front of a bunch of strangers who's gonna be picking apart every single part of your body. So if you sign up for prep, you have to go all in and follow the program through 100%. The first couple weeks were fine. I was starting my prep at eating probably around 2,500 calories, pretty high calories. My maintenance, I was feeling amazing. I had a lot of energy. I was training consistently prior to prep, so trainings weren't really anything different to me. On top of that, my coach started adding cardio right from the beginning, and the first couple of weeks were fine. I was just okay. I was just doing my thing. I was doing my exercises and just didn't feel really anything. But as the prep got deeper, the hunger became constant, the energy drops became brutal, and the old mental patterns and bad eating habits started to creep back up, sometimes even without realizing it. And I caught myself thinking about food all the time, second guessing if I should eat this or if I should eat that. Because I was always hungry, I was constantly looking for low-calorie options. So my day consists from eating oatmeal in the morning. I pour tons of sugar-free and zero-calorie syrup over it just to give it some flavor. Then I would be eating those shirataki noodles that taste like garbage just because it added volume to my foods, because I didn't want to be hungry. And on top of that, I felt constantly bloated. So I actually looked like I was pregnant because I was eating so much fiber from veggies because they were low in calories and high in volume that I was struggling with horrible digestive issues on top of that. And honestly, I was obsessing over every tiny bit of change in my body. I looked the best I've ever looked. I was already starting at pretty low number. I was around like 155 pounds. Right now I'm 175, so 20 pounds heavier. And I haven't lost a lot of weight during the prep. I actually started at 155 and I went down to like 147. That was my stage weight. And looking at those photos today, all of these that you see on the screen, I remember those days that I would be looking at those photos after sending check-in to my coach, picking myself apart, telling myself that I'm not lean enough. That's how competing and looking great mess up with my mindset and my head. And let's talk about socializing with other people. That just wasn't really existing. I know that a lot of competitors don't really see the impact of not being able to go eat and like drink and just having fun with friends. They just go hang out and they just sip on water. But I didn't want to go through that. I just felt deprived all the time. So I was just isolating myself. I met my boyfriend second week in prep. So we actually didn't even go for dinner for 4 months of us dating because I couldn't. I was prepping. So all we ate was just chicken and potatoes and broccoli in our apartment. Everything literally revolves around your meals, your cardio, your training, and your sleep. And honestly, by the end, it just didn't feel like anything healthy anymore. I went into the prep super strong, but I ended really drained. And listen, before you say, why are you complaining? Why did you do that? I'm not complaining. I'm just truly explaining and telling you how prep affected me and my own experience. I know that there's a lot of competitors who loves competing and it's their passion and they love it and they keep doing it and they do several shows in a year. For me, it's something that I truly feel like it's just not for me. However, I don't regret. I actually love the fact that I've experienced it because now I can say I've competed. I know what competing is about. It has taught me so much about myself. It was definitely one of the hardest things that I've put myself through, and I have zero regrets, but I also know that it's not something that I will ever do again. Now let's talk about my body and what did I actually do to my body going through this 4 months prep. So second week in prep, I lost my period, and I lost my period for 2 years. My hormones crashed hard. I was struggling with fatigue, digestion issues, and sleep. Even after the show, my metabolism needed so much time to recover. And it took me so much work to heal my relationship with food again, because for a whole year after competing, I struggled with having a good relationship with food, and it's just not something that I consider worth it, because I step on the stage, I walk there for 5 minutes, I let other people who don't know me pick my body apart and pretty much tell me that I still don't look enough to place first. So was it worth it? I don't really know. And listen, I knew that competing wasn't healthy, but I didn't realize how much damage it can do even when you're starting from really good place. All you see on the social media is just beauty, shredded bodies, beautiful bikini, but no one talks about these things. And I hope that this will open your eyes a little bit. And again, if you're considering competing, I will always say, go for it if you feel like you're mentally ready and you're in a really good place to go through this. But I also think that you need to know how bad for your body that could be. It took me 2 years to get my period back. You know, when someone says the word post-show depression, I didn't know what the word actually meant until I've experienced it. I remember 3 days after the show, we came back home. I've put on about 17 pounds in 10 days, which most of it was water, but of course I didn't manage my reverse diet properly. So I blew up like a balloon. Yet I wasn't fat, but I was seeing myself as fat, because post-show depression, when you go from someone who is so shredded, has veins all over her body, to now carrying a little bit of fat, that messes up with your head so much. I remember the day after we woke up in our apartment and I was standing in the kitchen crying. My boyfriend looked at me, asked me what's going on. And I looked at him and I said, I'm fat. And he looked at me, he was like, you're not fat. But he didn't know how to answer to me because he never experienced that. And he saw me as a girl who is clearly struggling mentally to be okay with not having those popping veins anymore. Because you realize that you're actually chasing this shredded, lean look that is not sustainable, because the physique that you have on the stage is not the physique that you can maintain. And I wish that someone would have told me this before competing, because maybe I would be mentally more prepared to go through this post-show depression. But now let's talk about the positive thing here, the show day. Honestly, it was one of the proudest moments that I've ever experienced, because standing on the stage, walking in those heels, in those tiniest bikinis, knowing that I worked so freaking hard, that just felt amazing. I won second place. This is my trophy that I am so proud of, but like I said, I will never ever put those bikinis on ever again, because my health is so much more important than this trophy. My goal was always from the beginning to finish, to go through prep, and if I win the trophy, amazing. If I won't, I'm okay with that too. The days after the show were honestly extremely difficult, because all of a sudden you wake up with no structure, because the only goal for 4 months that you had was to step on the stage and do your best. But the next day when you wake up, you open your eyes and you think, what's next? And that's when I started struggling, because I felt like I lost the purpose. I didn't have the goal anymore, and that was really hard. And when people ask me today what was the best part of the whole experience, I'll tell you that it was going for dinner with my boyfriend right after the show, because for 4 months we couldn't enjoy dinner out. And I remember that right after the show, we went to the hotel, we ate a lot of cookies that we brought with us, and then we went for dinner. several meals. We had gnocchi, pizza, brownies, cookies. We had all of it. And it was honestly the best day of my life because I was so excited to finally enjoy time with my boyfriend. And that's why I will say competing is for some people, but for some people, what means more is just to enjoy life, having good food, having a good relationship with food. And yes, maybe being a little bit, you know, on the heavier side, or okay to not be always shredded, but actually live your life. And that's me. So if you're thinking about competing, here's what I'm going to say. It's a very extreme sport. It's not really about health. It demands everything from your body and then some. So if you have 100% amazing relationship with food and your body, go for it. Because I'm proud I did. But would I compete again? Honestly, no. And if I ever did, I would have very different expectations and boundaries in place. Because the truth is, you don't need a competition stage to prove your worth. You don't need a 6% body fat to feel accomplished. And in my opinion, what matters most is protecting your health, your hormones, your relationship with food, and your mental well-being. So that's my honest, no BS experience about competing. And if you're someone who is thinking about competing, I hope that this helps. I hope that this doesn't discourage you, but I also wanted to be very honest about the truth when it comes to doing prep and going through something drastic like this. So thanks for being here. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button because I post videos every single week, and I will see you in the next one.